to the next video. So at the end of the previous video, you attempted to create a loop. Here's an interesting thought. We can also, and we'll look at it in a moment, how to move a point. And so it doesn't just draw another point further down, it moves it in a different place. Okay, so we know how to do a point. Let's undo the code so we can come back. Let's come back to what we were really all about. So we'll get rid of the loop, right? And we'll just get back to our very starting point in our previous video. That should be tabbed across. You notice now it's all even. Here's the thing to go to next, and that is, can I draw a circle? Now, again, I need the pen and paper just to kind of talk how you draw a circle. So there is a function called circle, right? A constructor. The first value is a center point. And the second value is the radius of the circle. So that will be a point object. And that's where it gets quite tricky, because you are now combining various different elements inside here. So let's just draw it and tell you what I mean. So the center point is going to be a point, right? That's this point XY. This is the center of your circle. So we need to create a point, right? And the very first thing, and we're going to pass it to the circle constructor. The second thing is this distance here, this radius, is a distance, right? It's 10, 20, 30, 40 or whatever distances, pixels. And that is your second value in here. So let's code it in steps and see how to do it. Okay, so if we come back here to what we had before, we had a point object at 100 and 120. Let's try to get it close to the center of the window. Should be about 100, 100, because as I said, I think I said the graphical window is about 200, 200. A pixel or two out either side. We don't need to worry about drawing the point, so we're going to just comment that out. We don't want to draw it, and we're not worried about setting an outline. Okay, we just want a point. Okay, so if you remember what the note said about a circle, is it needs to have a point. The first value is a point object. Okay, that whole thing, and the second is a number, a radius. So P is the stored point, and we need to pass that in to our circle. And what we're going to do is we are going to write that. Now you might say to me, Nad, why have you written C equals circle? What does that mean? What we're going to do is fill this in properly. Once this code, the capital C circle code, builds the circle, it will then store it or assign it to this variable C. So what did we say a circle needed? It needed a center point. Well, look, we'll take that one up there. So the very first value is going to be P. Put a comma in. That's your center. How big is the radius going to be? Should we make it 30 just for starting point? Okay, so now we have created a circle. At the center, there's the point at which it's the center, and that's the radius. And we have now assigned it to C. Okay, so and I like to emphasize this, there's C, there's all your work, all that circle stuff has been thrown and stored inside there. Okay, now if you look at the previous sequence that I've commented out, I created a point and then I drew the point. Well, I don't want to draw the point, but I do want to draw the circle. Look how this bit works. I take the name of the variable and I write draw. Well, actually what's nice is you can do the same thing with a circle. Draw. Any idea what I'm going to draw it on? If you said win, then you got it right. It's exactly the same as before, win. And that should draw a window onto that. And we're going to do a couple of other things in a minute, but let's just see if that will draw that circle I have just created with that center onto a window. Right, let's run the file, check there's no obvious errors. Okay, let's run our main. And behind the screen is our circle, which is roughly in the center, you notice. It's 100 across and 100 down with a distance of 30 in the radius here. Look, it keeps on disappearing, mainly because, hang on, mainly because of just the way that this Mac works. Okay, let's do a couple of nice things. And at this point, that's the purpose of this particular section of the lectures. I want to show you how to create a circle and then draw that circle. So at this point, if you've arrived at this point, something's going wrong or you're happy with it, you can draw a circle. From this point in the remainder part of this video, I'm going to just show you some interesting extensions and variations which you're welcome to play with. Right, so let's close that down. Let's say that I wanted to fill that circle with a red. There's a nice method called set fill. Notice set lowercase, fill, F for fill capital. What color am I going to give it? Let's give it the color blue. Right. So I've drawn it and now I'm going to fill it. So let's right click, run file as script, go back over here, type in main and execute it. And let's have a look. There we go. I've got a blue circle. Now what's really, really interesting is whether I can do interesting things with a loop. Loops get really, really fun with this type of stuff. Look, this circle here is only 30 and it's blue. But could I create a loop where what I did is I moved that circle about? Now that's an interesting challenge to do. So let's have a go, okay? So very first of all, how do you move that whole circle? You just type move. And then what you give it is how far across and how far down you want it to move. So let's say I want it to go across 20 and 20 across. Let's have a look what will happen if I run that code. So run file as script, save, and run that. Let's have a look. And now you might say to me, hang on a second. How do I know that moved? Well, you can see it's slightly off center, but you didn't see it move, so it actually isn't as interesting. So we're going to try something which may make my Paizo crash. I want to just demonstrate the move to you, right? So what happens if I just do this? Create a simple loop here. I in range, let's say 100, okay? That's going to go up in steps of 1. So let's just move it 1 pixel at a time inside that loop 100 times, and I wonder if we can actually see it move, right? So let's run that. Hang on, what's wrong with that code? That line underneath is at the same level as that code. It needs to be indented, so that will execute every time it stays in the loop. Okay, let's run it. Let's have a look. Right, now this is, oh, didn't like that. What did I miss out? It says here for I in range and it's pointing around here. Can you see? Invalid syntax means I've typed something incorrectly. What I needed was a colon at the end of that line. Okay, as I say, errors are really, really useful. Right, let's run it and let's have a look, see what happens. Right, I've got to be quick because it might move so fast. Oh, there we go. Can you see it moving? Let's make it even more interesting. Let's start it over, right over in the top left-hand corner so we have time to see it. And let's move it across by, I don't know, 200. So it's just going to shift all the way in steps of 1 pixel. Okay, now watch this. So let's just check I haven't done any errors in my code. I haven't. Run main. There are faster ways of running main by just, and I'll show you that later, but we'll worry about that later. Have a look at that. Nice and simple, actually very, very smooth. So there's a really nice little move method or function for a circle. In fact, the move can be used on any object. Okay, I could have just drawn the point and I could have made the point itself move as well. So I started it right in the top left-hand corner and in steps of 1 pixel moved it 200 times. And you saw it looked like it was moving across the screen. I'm going to stop there because for those of you who haven't done Python or Paizo before but think, can you create a simple ping pong game out of this? Can you write code which would make it bounce off the walls? That's a really, really fun challenge for you if you're just learning, if you're, learning it and you want to play with it and think you can have a go. So feel free to do that.